There are those today who would tell us that freedom means something different than it meant to our fathers. But when a central government bureaucrat or judge takes from us our rights to run our schools, to determine the destiny of our own children, to run our labor unions, our businesses, our hospitals, and our very lives, I do not call that freedom. I call that abject slavery to government. I call it slavery of the most degenerate origin that goes back 1,000 years in time and rests its right to rule upon threat and blackmail, upon punishment of the sick and weak and helpless, upon the savage doctrine that might is right, upon the naked, ugly power of tyranny. Today, the eyes of the nation are on Alabama because Alabama is making of herself an example of leadership and is contributing toward a strengthening of our nation. Alabama is where freedom lives and works. That is why the words Alabama and freedom have come to have the same meaning to many millions of people throughout the world. Today, wherever you may be proud to be called an Alabamian because wherever we have gone for you, we have always taken pride in the great people we represent. We have always endeavored to stand in the front ranks for you and to be the first to stand in defense of your philosophy. It is because of our respect for the great people of Alabama and for their principles that we have often said that we see no reason why a man from Alabama would not make just as good a president as a man from New York or California, and maybe a better than one from Texas.
And I can tell you this in utmost sincerity. I am humble and proud to have been elected to represent such a people. I am proud to be an Alabamian. For the first time in the history of Alabama, a woman has been elected to the office of governor. Ordinarily, this matter would only be solemnized by inauguration and dutifully recorded with appropriate statistics by those who keep up with such things. But this is not an ordinary occasion. I predict that this event shall have greater significance. It is plain to see that federal bureaucrats who today lay claim to have power to impose percentage guidelines and who resort to threats and blackmail to compel local school boards into compliance are already a part of a force which tomorrow may well lay down even sterner guidelines to control our thoughts, our actions, and every aspect of our lives. Even now, a federal agency attempts to tell us the schools our children shall attend, to regulate the contents of their textbooks, who shall teach them, and with whom our children shall associate. This is an effort to gain control of the hearts and minds of our children. I resent it. As your governor, and as a mother, I shall resist it. I shall seek support of concerned parents from everywhere to help overcome this menace to the welfare of our children. Common sense tells us that the opposite of political freedom is political control. If control is exercised by force, we may be forced to obey the commands of a tyrant. But the mere fact that force is used or threatened is proof that the tyrant cannot control our convictions and must therefore suppress our liberty.
To do so, it's my pride and my pleasure to introduce to you a great American, a great Alabamian, your friend and mine, Charlie Boswell, ladies and gentlemen. Personal coach.
I'm a little Lee Wallace. I'm sure that you understand the importance of this race for governor, or you wouldn't be out here in such huge numbers tonight in Jefferson County. So we'll get on with the old image business and forget about it, because your image is all right in your pocket.
Listening to your speech tonight, you did not touch on the local issues as much as you have in some previous addresses you've made. How do you decide on just what you're going to say?
Well, I touched on local issues. I talked about our administration and what we propose for the future, but I talked about how the national news media here covering this election and how important it is to Alabamians.
Say if you're elected, that some of the things that Mr. Finch has done as Secretary of Health, Welfare, and Education, you're going to undo some of these things. So do you have plans?
Yes, I have some plans. The plans are to tell the President of the United States that this vote in Alabama was a vote from the entire Southland, and that means that to go ahead and carry out your campaign commitments. And the campaign commitments would mean that he would have to tell Mr. Finch not to bus any children, not to close any neighborhood schools, because that's what he pledged not to do.
Well, how will you so-called undouble what Mr. Finch does?
Political pressure does many things to many people, and my election, according to the national news columnists, is going to make Mr. Nixon turn in our direction. But what they're really saying is that he must take a position in our direction about public schools.
Do you have any plans as far as court procedure in regards to this?
I have political pressure plans, and May 5th is going to apply the political pressure to Mr. Nixon.
The President reminded us that he was committed to the withdrawal of American forces from Cambodia not later than June 30, which would mean a 60-day involvement in that operation. He reminded us of the restriction on the penetration into Cambodia of 30 kilometers, or about 21 miles. His theory was, and his reasoning was, that the capturing of these, or the destruction of these supply or sanctuary bases, would limit the communist capability there, would make it possible for the South Vietnamese to be more quickly prepared to handle the conduct of the war there.
And Joe Goodwin and I in law school together, and he's up there in the Senate chair next to the governor. If the governor croaked, then he would be the governor, and he won't even. And he was a Wallaceite. All these years, Joe Goodwin and Montgomery, Wallace. And they put the taxes on us. 2 cents on a can of beer, another cent on a cigar, and all down in everything we do except the right to the air we breathe. They didn't tax that, and the right to go to the bathroom, and they didn't tax that. But Joe Goodwin says he believed in having a code of ethics. Why, we've been needing a code of ethics for the last 25 years. Oh, this thing stinks.
What would be the first thing you would do?
Well, the first thing we'd do is when the legislature met, would get a code of ethics. I mean, just lay it down there heavy. Just look at that. Joe Goodwin won't even take out a driver's license and pay for $4.25. He helped raise it from $2.25 to $4.25, and he used his son's license. Now, you talking about ethics. Oh, Mike, and that.
where a loved one is gone or a son is given.
A warm welcome here in the heart of the city. We have some very distinguished guests who flew up on Air Force One in the spring. To have an opportunity to be here with you is a very special meaning to me. I have checked history for those younger people that are here, and some of you older ones remember, but not very many. The last time that the President of the United States came to Birmingham was 50 years ago in 1921. And while candidates for president have been here, as a matter of fact, I was here one year as a candidate for president. Since that time, 50 years ago, no President of the United States, while he was in office, has visited Birmingham. And may I say, I'm proud to be here, and I trust that more presidents will come more often in the future to Birmingham. Now, 100 years seems like a long time, but as I'm sure you know, Birmingham, which is one of the great cities of the world, is one of the youngest big cities of the world, because most great cities go back many years more than 100 years. So this is a young city. It is a big city. It has a great spirit. It has won the prize of the All-American City, and that's another reason I'm very proud to be here. This particular time isn't the time, particularly when we see all of the young
George Wallace arrived here at the Governor's House Motel, Montgomery, about 3 hours ago. Went directly to his suite to watch TV with his family and get the latest returns there. He's been in his suite except for just a few minutes when he was interviewed by network newsmen. There are about 800 people here in the ballroom at the Governor's House as Mr. Wallace makes his appearance here now for the first time this evening. With Mr. Wallace or some of the members of his family. We can't see the whole group from here. They're looking at the late statewide totals on the board just to the right of Mr. Wallace.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for being here so long and so late, and I'm sorry that I am a little late in getting here, but I appreciate all of you being here, and I want to thank all of you for the work that you did for us in this first primary campaign, and I think you can see that we've done remarkably well with the opposition that we've had, the Washington interference and the block vote, and we're still running ahead at this time. And finally, of course, we will win the governor's race, as you know. So I might not stay with you so much longer because one of these networks I'd promised to be up in the morning for them, but I'm almost about to publicly back out and just stay with you. But Anyway, I just want to thank you for the dedication to our cause and the support you've given to me and to my family, and to say that I speak for all of them when I say we're very grateful. We do feel that against terrific odds, when you run against an incumbent in office, plus the powerful opposition that we had, that we've done remarkably well, and I feel very good about the matter. And I feel very good about the final outcome, as I'm sure that you do. And so, with that, I will leave you for a while and might be back a little bit later on, but I'm going to have to get ready to get with one of these networks in the morning and tell them all about it. But anyway, thank you for all your support, and start to work on tomorrow, because we will certainly win this governor's race in the runoff. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Let me, Mr. Caton, say this, that the only reason there's any flurry of activity any place about schools nationwide, and especially in Washington, is because of political pressure. We have lost every court suit that has been filed. And when we start winning court suits, it's going to be because of the masses of people in this country having said no more. Courts are subjected to public opinion. Mr. Nixon is, and the Congress is, and the people are fed up. And so my election on May 5th is going to say to the Nixon administration about schools, you can either put up or shut up as far as this part of the country is concerned. It's still a sad day that a court has to close schools like Booker T. Washington and others and force children to go to places against their choice. And I say that this court order that they got here in Montgomery is nearly as good as some of the folks think it is. In fact, it in itself is a bad court order, and that's all we're going to get until the political pressure is
placed upon the necks of those in Washington, and that's the reason I'm running for governor, because they're going to give our schools back. They're going to get off our necks, and my election, as I said in Birmingham, is going to be a good example of putting the hay down where the goats can get it in Washington, because they know... And who do I see? I see all the Humphrey Muskie Democrats in Alabama, all of them right under there. There's the chairman of the Democratic Executive Committee, and there's some militants. And look, and I declare there's a member of the president's cabinet in there. And there's a group of militants, and way back there on the corner of the bed, some of the largest newspapers in Alabama. There they are. And the special interests, they're the special interests there. That's some of the utilities. They're all there. Well, I tell you, politics make strange bedfellows, but the folks still in bed with our movement are the people of Alabama. And we do have in Montgomery, maybe some for the first time, but we're certainly glad to have you. And I think this is very much evidence of the importance. The low and middle income family in this state and other states have their nose to the grindstone, so to speak. So I say in the beginning that...
Yes, ma'am. Well, everything's fine, and I'm glad you're here, and we appreciate the fact that we have with us tonight the networks from throughout the country, because they're still mighty interested in what the people of Alabama do and what they say and what they think. And the people of Alabama will still be on the firing line. We found that in this recent campaign throughout the country that many candidates for the Republican Party and the Democratic Party spoke and sounded as if they lived in Alabama, as if their speeches were written in our state. And I think that the movement started by the people of this state today has spread even to the point where the president of our country now says publicly what we used to say publicly here in Alabama. And I think that that's all because of you, the people of the state. And I want to thank all of you for being here tonight and for working so long and hard. We will stand up for Alabama, and we will have 4 years of good, fine government dedicated to all the people of this state.
The ceremonies.
George, I don't know anything to say, but you know what my heart is. Say something before we start here.
Grateful today that my longtime personal friend, former Governor George Wallace, came here with me on this occasion. The oath of office will be administered by Probate Judge T.C. Allman of Decatur. I asked my pastor, Reverend Billy Stevenson of Decatur, to come here today to be with me, and I'd like to ask him to lead us in prayer and all of us to join at this time, please.
May we unite our hearts together.
thus Albert's president will become Alabama's 52nd governor here in the governor's office.
Good job.
State officials and friends. The oath of office was given by Chief Army Probate Judge Morgan County, a longtime friend